Hello, everyone. I'm Chester44, also known as Fly, and welcome to this Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. Last episode, we went and dealt with a missing persons case that happened to be here in Defiance Bay. A little side trip, but hey, we managed to take care of that. Now, we've got nothing else to do and nowhere else to go, except the main quest line. So, let's make our way to Dyrford Village. We've got things to see. Find someone in town who knows about the ruins. Is that what it is? Mysterious ruins outside of Dyrford. Okay. And we've got the whole town here. The Temple of Bareth there, Dyrford Mill, Dracogen Inn, Turgle's Curery, Hendana's Apothecary, Winfrith's Arms and Armory, and a Grieving Mother. Well, we'll take a look at what we can up here first, which includes the Temple of Bareth. Oh. How long do we gotta stand out here? Until we find her, so keep your eyes peeled. An elf idles by the road, watching the village across the river. He nods as you approach, and the cowled figure standing near him falls silent.
Greetings.
Greetings, friend. I've heard of you. Word has it you've been busy in Defiance Bay. I'm busy too, and eager to finish my business and get back to the city. And what business is that? Oh, haven't you heard? There's a murderer on the loose. Said to have gone mad with grief and strangled a dozen healthy children when her own was hollowborn. We've come all the way from Defiance Bay to bring her to justice. She's here? He nods across the river. She's hiding out in the village. We'd go in after her ourselves, but the problem is, she knows our faces. There's no telling what she'd do if she saw us coming. And we'd like to avoid any further unnecessary bloodshed. Her name's Nifri. She's an Orlan. We want to get her out of town so that we can deal with her cleanly. She knows we're looking for her, but if someone were to convince her that it's safe to leave... Not so sure about this. He lays a strong hand on your shoulder. A mad woman like that is everybody's problem, friend. Just keep an eye out. If you come across her, remember what I told you. I promise I'll make it worth your while. I have a few questions for you. What is it? Remind me who I'm looking for. An Orlan woman named Nifri. I don't know exactly where in the village she is, but there aren't too many Orlans around here. What did Nifri do exactly? She was responsible for the murder of all those babies in Defiance Bay, remember? Terrible thing. But we'll make her pay, alright? Curious, and I don't know. Something about this. Something about the way he's talking concerns me a little bit. I'm not sure if I fully trust. Okay, those are a bunch of gold names. I don't care about them. North exit doesn't lead anywhere. It looks like we can't go anywhere else there. Alright. Let's take a look in the Temple of Bareth. Let's see here. Not gonna steal. Flames dance amidst scattered offerings. Keys, coins, and the tiny skulls of birds and mice are mired in the melted and hardened wax. Dr. Beodmar, no one trusts me with anything more than lighting candles.
Out with you! I already told you what... I'm sorry. I thought you were one of those ruffians.
The old man turns as you enter. His face is covered in bruises and his lower lip is swollen. He stops and peers at you, squinting through a black eye. Looks like someone's beaten us here.
How may I help you?
What happened to you?
I never saw their faces. Strange hooded men asking about those ruins. Cleoban Relag. Most of the brigands who come through here asking about the ruins are looking for a few ancient trinkets. But these people knew the name, and they were in a hurry. They wanted to know where Cleoban Relag was. I tried to keep it from them, but I couldn't hold out forever. I don't know what they were up to, but it can't be good.
Well, that's a little worrying. That does sound like the leaden key, doesn't it? Can you tell me where to find the ruins?
The Glanfathan tribe that guards the ruins will kill anyone who trespasses there. And they'll retaliate against us, too, if history is any indication. We've had too many fortune seekers stir up trouble of late. If I'm to tell you, I'll need to know your reason for wanting to go.
A dangerous plot is unfolding there. I've got to stop it.
If that's the case, then we may already have trouble headed our way. I'll have to take you at your word. You'll find Cleoban Relag here. Whatever trouble you find there, please end it quietly and try to stay out of the ruins.
Tell me more about Dyrford. Folk here tend to keep to themselves, as they do in most towns this deep in the Deerwood. They're suspicious of travelers, but with all the brigands and refugees moving through the area, who can blame them? This is a Temple of Bareth. What can you tell me about Bareth? Bareth is the most universal of all the gods. It oversees portals and cycles of all kinds, even life and death itself. Under Bareth, an ending is merely a passage to another beginning. Bareth has many representations across time and across cultures. Around the Deerwood, you'll commonly see it depicted as the Pallid Knight or the Usher. The Glanfathans, however, knew it as Beunin I Anku and Anku I Beunin. Tell me about the Pallid Knight. She's one of the youngest manifestations of Bareth, but a familiar one nonetheless. Stories describe her as a gaunt knight in black armor with black eyes, black hair, and milk-pale skin. She demands an impossible toll from travelers who have tarried too long on her lord's role. Some challenge her, only to slay themselves in the process. Who is the Usher? Kith have written stories, songs, and poems about the Usher for centuries. Sometimes he's folk, sometimes dwarf, and sometimes merely a walking skeleton. He never speaks, but he guides the way to death, and the next life. He also creates the circumstances for the wayward to stumble into their own graves. I've never heard of Beunin I Anku, and Anku I Beunin. It means life in death and death in life, respectively. You see them as two skeletal figures, one male and one female. Explorers have found them carved opposite one another in doorways, but I know of no particular legends that speak of them. Thanks for the information. Of course, Bareth was once more widely worshipped in this area, but it is a silent god. These days, people find themselves in need of clearer answers. Cleoban Relag. I think I saw it over in the west. We may have passed by it in one of the areas nearby. At least that's what it feels like to me. Oh, hey, good. That quest is complete, and we have Patchwork Boots. Grants Exalted Hands, which heals someone or stuns an enemy. And defense against weakened attacks. Okay, so steer clear of the Glanfathan tribes guarding the ruins. We don't... Oh, no, it is. It's all the way up there. Wait. Cleoban Relag. Isn't that where we need to go for, Yes. We need to go there for Adair. That's why I recognize the name. Alright. Well, we can head into the town proper here. A word, traveler. I only require a moment.
Welcome.
The guard sighs with relief as he looks at you. What are the odds? Stuck in this backwater, only to meet the famed champion of Defiance Bay. Bareth's wheel brings mercy today, indeed. Perhaps you could help. I don't suppose you saw a young elven noblewoman on the road. I'm stuck in this wretched place with the rest of my unit until we find her. Who is she? Lady Alis. She's the daughter of Lord Nestor Harond, and she's gone missing. Perhaps you could go speak with Lord Harond at the inn. He'll be grateful for the assistance, and it could be the villagers will open up to you more than they have to us. That's something we can try. We've got the mill over here. I don't know if there's anything interesting inside. There's probably a quest that'll eventually go in here. The mill slowly grinds away at a trough of grain. Oh, hello. A peridot in the mill. Sure, why not? I didn't see that coming, but sure. Okay, so... got the Draco getting...
Onto the caddy, Tamak. You'd have better odds against a Stelgar.
Damn Gallowayne for monsters like that, and damn the rest of the gods too. A man paces angrily in front of a wrecked animal pen, his sun-weathered face twisted with iron. He's so wrapped up in his fury that he doesn't seem to notice you. Gallowayne, slobbering beasts, blazing, bloody effigy, thrice damned salty wench or soggy. What's wrong? That monster stole my pigs! Traipsed into the village, tore down my pen, and made off with the whole damned herd. Just left a few little runts, and what am I supposed to do with them? Calm down, and tell me what happened. He bites his lip and closes his eyes. His nostrils flare with each quick, angry breath. Wife's always telling me to mind my temper. Just breathe deep and count to 10. An ogre moved into the area not too long ago. Folk had been seeing glimpses and tracks out in the woods, but it seemed to be staying away from town. Or so we all thought until it made off with my pigs. Now everyone's afraid it's going to develop a taste for kith if it hasn't already. What do you mean? What do you mean to do now? I know it's too late to get my pigs back, but it has set my mind at ease to see that thing's head shorn from its neck. In fact, you bring its ugly pate to me and I'll trade you for something that's of less use to a farmer like me than to a rowdy-looking sort like yourself. What do you know about the ogre? It's the same as any other, I'm sure. A big, ugly son of a bitch with a nasty temper and an appetite to match. Triggle could tell you more. He claims to have seen it in the wood. You can find him in his shop right by the broken tower. I've been sent to find an Orlin named Nifri. Know where she is? Never even heard of her. An ogre's lair. Okay, need to find an ogre. We can work on that. There's an exit to the south here. Does that go to anything? It does not. East is probably the only other area. Couple villagers. Oh, don't steal. Okay. What have we got here? Winfrith's Arms and Armory. Sure, let's take a look in here. Maybe there's some good loot we can buy. We have so much freaking money. Why not?
Gods keep you.
A portly, smiling man stands behind a warped wooden counter, polishing a buckler. He looks up. I haven't seen you before. Always glad to see a new face in town. Company's good for business, and shatter is good for the soul. That's what I always say. Anyway, what can I do for you? What's been going on in Dyrford? Oh, we're a quiet little town. Not much happens here. Especially not since the legacy hit. People realized they couldn't have babies, and they just stopped trying altogether. And that takes a lot of the excitement out of the day-to-day, if you can believe it. Show me what you have for sale. Let's see. Tall grass, a unique pike. Okay. The Hours of St. Rumbolt, a unique greatsword. Grudge Keeper, a unique rod. Yeah. And Ritezzi's Thorn, a unique spear. Mosquito, a unique rapier. Sure. Oh, lower concentration. I don't like that. Angio's Gambison. Interesting, but items per rest. Voice, let's see. Boots of Zealous Command. Only used by Paladin, but that's useful. Voice of the Mountaintop, only used by Chanter for chant area of effects. Rope, pry bar, hammer and chisel. And I feel like the torch might be needed. No, these are not where they're supposed to be. Please put those all into here. Wait, didn't I buy all the things, or did I only buy one of them? No, that's fine. Okay. Oh no, you're a gold name. I didn't realize. Okay, leave that. Okay. Down the center of town here. The Dracogen Inn. Alright, let's take a look at the inn. Probably plenty of people in here. This table has been scarred and stained from decades of use.
I just want to find her. Surely even you can understand that.
We're decent folk, my lord. Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
Okay. The portrait depicts a man and a woman dressed in Adir garb that would have been in style a century ago. The heavy frame has been battered, and the plate that once bore the patron's name has been scratched out. They share a passionate embrace that seems at odds with the disgust on their faces. Interesting. Sid here.
Greetings.
A redhead stands by the fire, tuning her lute and plucking its strings. She hums snatches of a melody as she goes. First time at the Dracogen. Normally I'd have a song ready, but I haven't quite worked out this tune yet. I'm writing some chants about the founding of this inn. Oh, say, you interested in the story? I haven't finished the chants, but I could tell you about it all the same. Sure, let's have it. Oh, excellent. These rustic fables are always great fun. Let me get out something to write with. It was built in the time of Hadret's rebellion. An Adiran lady, Thainu, once had a keep here. One of the towers still stands, but the rest is said to be buried under the village. Anyway, she stuck to the side of the Empire, and a contingent of Duke Hadret's Knights of the Crucible helped the farmers and colonists in the area turn her keep to rubble. This inn was the first building that sprang up from the ruin. Built with some of the same bricks the colonists had pulled from the Lady Thainu's castle, they say. Supposedly, the quarterstaff of her chief wizard even got lost in the construction, mortared into a wall or nailed under a floorboard. Anyway, the inn was supposed to be a haven and a meeting place while the locals built their new town. What do you mean, supposed to be? Dear Woodens are an ornery lot, and the more these new neighbors met, the more they argued. They realized they didn't agree on much beside ousting the old lord. The biggest divide was over the Glanfathans and their nearby ruins. Hadret's Knights and their supporters wanted to keep the peace, but a group of misfits with more anarchic leanings that had formed in the town wanted to go after the tribes the same way they'd gone after their lord. Soon, the villagers were fighting with each other as much as with the Adirans. In the end, memories of the Broken Stone War and the War of the Black Trees were fresh enough that the Duke's soldiers won the day. Most of the other villagers came around eventually, but some of the core troublemakers left to join the front lines of the War of Defiance, and others, I've heard, found their way into the Guided Compass, the most forward-looking of the Glanfathan tribes. I don't know if I believe that part myself, but it makes a good story. She points to the east wall. There's a portrait of one of the chief rabble-rousers and his rival in the peacekeeping faction. Someone's idea of a joke. I don't think they were particularly amused. I want to hear about the Broken Stone War. That was the first major conflict between the original Adiran settlers and the Glanfathans. Happened 3 years into colonization when some farmers knocked over an Adra menhir that was part of the Nangwithan ruin. The war didn't last long, but it spread quickly and claimed thousands. In the early weeks, most of the colonists didn't even realize there was a war going on until the Glanfathan raiders hit their villages. There had been small, spontaneous skirmishes between the colonists and the locals before then, but this was organized, and it was the start of decades of violence between the colonists and the Glanfathans. As you can see, Deerwood's full of history, even in little villages like this. Tell me about the War of Black Trees. It started back in the colonial days, almost 30 years after the Broken Stone War. Even though an isolated conflict still broke out between the settlers and the Glanfathans, both sides had officially agreed to peace. Edrang Hadred, Admeth's father, was Gref at the time. As part of peace negotiations, he'd signed treaties prohibiting Aediran colonists from looting in Gwithan ruins. However, he'd been unable to outlaw the use of captured Glenfathans as slaves. What's a grafe? A grafe is the governor of a colony and is subservient to the Aediran emperor. The early leaders of the Aedir colony in the Dyrwood, including Edrang and Admeth Hadret, were grafes. At the start of the War of Defiance, Admeth Hadret declared himself Duke of an independent Dyrwood, rather than Graf of the Emperor's colony. It was the same term used for leaders of the newly independent Vailian republics. Anyway, we haven't had a grafe since. I see. Indeed, the taking of Glenfathan slaves had continued to be a source of conflict. It came to a head when Imperial agents, aided by certain earls in the Dyrwood, began looting the ruins again. See, the Empire had never actually agreed to Hadret's treaties on the matter, and the recent secession of the Vailian republics likely left them eager to weaken Hadret's position. The looting sparked a brutal slave uprising and a guerrilla campaign among the Glenfathans. Edrang Hadret was too old to lead forces into battle, and so he sent his son Admeth. Admeth made a costly but effective decision that ended the war faster than anyone could have imagined. He burned the forest near the Iron River to keep the Glenfathan warbands from retreating. Thousands of Glenfathans died, and as Admeth repeated his scorched earth tactics in the following months, he wore down the remainder of their forces. To this day, over 150 years later, there are still sections of the Dyrwood where the trees are nothing but bare, charred trunks. That explains the name of the War of Black Trees. Okay. Let's see here. So we've got Dengler.
Gods keep you.
The innkeeper digs inside a mug with a dirty rag. His eyes under his thick brows are tired but watchful. He gives you a quick nod as you approach the bar. Don't see many travelers these days. Something I can do for you? I have questions about Dyrford. Ask. Have you seen an Orlan named Nifri? He jerks his head at the stairs. Twitchy lady, that one. Tell me about the village. Walk from one bridge to the next and you've seen it. We're quiet, hard-working folk. We keep to ourselves and don't take to being pushed around. He glares at the well-dressed man standing off to the side. Used to be a castle here, built by some family of Aediran Thanes back when the Empire first came. Only one tower is still standing, and that's part of Triggle's shop now. Sid, that bard by the fire, could spin you the yarn if you're so inclined. Who lives in Dyrford? Not many anymore. Hard to keep people around when everyone's here is birthing Hollowborn. But we got a few who stick around and do business. Triggle is the leather courier, Hendina crafts potions, and Winfrith trades in general goods. Rumbald's a pig farmer. Or was, I take it, anyway. Tell me about Triggle. He's a courier. Treats leather and makes armor and a few other goods with it. Problem is, the smell of tallow and deer shit tends to put people off their food, and his shop's right next door. Ugh. What's Hendina's story? The lady's a clever hand with potions and poultices. Got herself into trouble with a nest of worms, or so I hear. Her cart's on the east end of town. And Winfrith? Been around even longer than I have. Nice enough fellow, but never could find his way to the end of his sentence. His shop's across the square. Something happened to Rimbald's pigs, I take it. Damn ogre carried them off. Now he squeals more than his herd ever did. That's rotten luck. You said you don't see many travelers. Course not. Why would they come here? We got bandits on the road and an ogre in the forest, as that yapping fool Rumbald will tell you. Worse yet, hasn't been a healthy child born here in over a year. Most kit that come here is just passing through. About that ogre. You don't hardly see him this close to town. Ogres and kith don't mix well. Ugly bastards, but they're smart enough to know that much. You want to know more, talk to Rumbald. His farm's southwest of here. What was your exchange with that nobleman about? He looks up from polishing his tankard and glowers at the lord. Folk round here's decent. They mind their own business. You want to stick your nose in it, go talk to them yourself. Alright, so food and drinks, yada yada yada. We've got the old stables. Of course, sleep in the stables. Worm's Rest. +2 dexterity and burn damage reduction. Drake's Den, extra might and con, plus damage against a beast. And Dragon's Lair, might, con, and intellect. Interesting. I like that idea. Let's see. Heavy, sweet perfumes emanate from the barrels. The stave joints are stained dark brown and dull purple. What are you doing in the kitchen? Dangler will get you sorted out with food and drink. Alright, alright. And that's Lord Harond. This sculder head looks as old as the inn. Its leathery skin is cracked and bleached from years of exposure. Well, we'll speak with Lord Harond, but I think we'll do that in the next episode. This one's gone on about long enough. Not gonna end the stream, just the episode. We've looked through about half the town, and we've got another half to look at. So, next episode, we'll look through the rest of the town and see what we can do about the few quests that we can probably do in here. That'll be in the next episode. So, until then, I am Chester44. I'll send in as Falai. That is Laniara, Adair, Kana, Dorans, Aloth, and Sagani. This has been a Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity, and I shall see you all next time.